Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel Biodiversity and Conservation. I am Subhalakshmi Raut from Ambika Prasad Research Foundation, India, and we are continuing our series on UGC examination for environmental science subject, and this is 17th part of Unit 3 Environmental Biology. So today we are going to discuss on theories related to climax community. And when we say climax community, it's the end product of the succession after going through a series of changes, which ends up with a stable community, which is known as climax community. And the major unit of vegetation is found in climax community, and this forms the basis for natural classification of different plant communities like herbs, shrubs, trees. All types of um, communities are found in these climax communities, and there are various theories that have been proposed over time to explain the nature of climax community, and there are major five theories, like the monoclinics theory, the polyclimax theory, the polyclimatic climax theory, the climax pattern theory, and the site climax theory. And we are going to discuss one by one. So first one is the monoclinics theory. This concept was given or brought to light by an American plant ecologist, F.E. Clements, in 1916, and he proposed that every region has only one climax plant community, toward which all the plants or other organisms are developing. So, according to this theory, in a climatic region, only one true climax community is possible, which is mainly controlled by the climatic factors. Such a climax is therefore called a climatic climax. So he assumed that all successions of a region lead through to same adult organism, that is the climax, regardless of its earlier site differences. And second assumption was that the climatic factors determine the dominant species that can present in a region, and completion results in the selection of one or more species as the final dominants. And third assumption was, although climax is permanent, because of its harmony with the stable habitat, the equilibrium is dynamic and not static. For example, superficial modifications may occur with the season, year, or cycle. However, these modifications, which are constantly at work, does not destroy the climax because they are within the fabric and limits of the climax. Like the plant communities that are found in a particular climax community are in accordance to the climatic conditions of that area. So it can be assumed that the equilibrium will be at rest, but it changes due to some climatic factors that differ seasonally, like which season there is sometimes more rainfall or more sunlight or more moisture. All these factors affect the equilibrium of the climax community, but the climax is permanent. That is, the presence of that community is permanent. Now, he believed that the climatic formation is the only climax of successional development. So, he named some stages according to the climax type, like subclimax, the stage in succession just preceding the climatic climax community is called subclimax, means the stage before the final um, community comes to or the mature community of the area is called subclimax, and seer climax, which becomes stabilized at any of the seral or transitional stages of the succession due to microclimate and other effects of soil, fire, etc. And this climax is a short form of disturbed climax, which have become more or less stabilized due to the recurrent disturbances by man or other biotic factors, which prevent the establishment of climatic climax community in that area. Means if we create fire continuously or regularly, means per year, then there will be less stabilized climatic community or the final community at the end, because in that area. And pre-climax, it is a community with life forms lower than those in the expected climatic climax, because um, because of some condition abiotic and abiotic factors which develop in a habitat drier than that of the expected climatic climax. This means that the pre-climax has lower life forms than expected, and post-climax, it is the strip of community with life forms higher than the expected climatic climax, and mostly occurs in moist and colder habitats. There were also some criticisms of monoclimax theory. First one is that it is common to observe that in the same climate, climax communities are different. This actually depends upon their primary stages and their habitat characteristics. Their successional stages are also different, and it may not always be true that the successions with similar pioneer or what we say the first early colonizer stages um, and the transitional communities would develop into similar climax communities. And the next reduction was that there was an intimate relationship of climax with the climate, and this formed a controversial point because in an area of uniform climate, it is common to observe different types of climax communities according to the soil, topography, and other factors. And third criticism was that Duritz in 1930 pointed out that there was contrast in vegetation on two soils that have developed from two different parent materials on same level topography and under same microclimate. So, although the successional development of the vegetation had been disturbed, the contrast in the vegetation between the two soils was evident, and this actually points out that the difference between certain soils due to parent material may not be eliminated even in areas with level landscapes and adequate moisture relations. So, if the parental characters actually, the parental characters influence the growth or type of vegetation. Even if we provide them with the best soil or um, all the other factors, there may not be growth according to us, because gene plays a role in that. And fourth criticism was Tansley in 1935. He Actually, he also disagreed with the view of Clements, and he said that climax is controlled by many factors and not climax is controlled by many factors and not solely on climate. So these are some criticisms of monoclimax theory. The next one is polyclimax theory. Here, Tansley actually developed this theory, and Moss and Calls laid the basic foundation. So, according to Tansley's concept of polyclimax theory, first one is there may be several different climax communities within a climatic region. Second assumption was each climax unit can be in dynamic equilibrium with the local habitats and their controlling environmental factors. And third concept is that a climax landscape consists of a mosaic or variety of edaphic, topographic, or ecoclimatically different communities, with one usually geographically dominant, that is the climatic climax. Here, actually, he wants to say that there may be presence of different types of climax communities in a particular area governed by some climatic conditions, and due to that, there may be variety of different communities like edaphic, topographic, and they from those mainly one type of community will be dominant. That depends on the climatic conditions. So that climatic climax will be dominant in this type of community. And Tansley even put forward the concept of possible control of factors other than climate on the climates, but he still thought that these communities would sooner or later develop into climatic climax types. As I said, that there are different types of communities um, within a climatic region, but he also thought that all these communities will develop into the climate based climates, that is, the community which will be wholly dependent on the climatic factors of that area. So, according to this theory, the climate stage was named depending upon the nature of the factor in stabilization, like edaphic climax. So the climax was on a underdeveloped soil, which develops due to different soil effects, and biotic climax. The climax developed due to biotic disturbances like some anthropogenic activities, some grazing activities. They uh, give rise to some communities or climax. Those are biotic climax. And next one is topographical climax. These develop due to different topographic factors um, like mountains, hills, plateaus, etc. Fire climax. These develop due to repeated effects of fire, and some supported this hypothesis, but um, as this theory accepts the fire climax, where naturally occurring fires periodically stop the development of vegetation. So, according to Dobenmeyer in 1968, the plant community was termed as disk climax, and Clements also said that. But some criticize this polyclimax theory, So the criticisms were that the recognition of fire uh, differs little from the monoclimax theory, and he recognized a plant community that was periodically arrested by fire as subclimax. And at this point, the major difference between these um, terms is between these hypotheses, that is monoclimax and polyclimax hypothesis, is only the terminology that in polyclimax we use disclimax as the term, and in monoclimax theory we use subclimax as the term defined for the arrest of plant growth due to fire. So, and Muller, Dombois, and Ellenberg in 1974 showed the correlation between two theories more clearly by uh, indicating that the more widely known polyclinics concept is still a offspring of monoclinics concept. So, if we recognize one or accept one, then rejecting one will be illogical, as monoclimax concept recognizes only one climatic climax in a macroclimatic region, but polyclimax concept refers to as several other climax communities that are controlled by different topographic, edaphic, and other factor complexes. So the main difference between two theories is just semantics. So acception and rejection actually of one theory is laying a very illogical concept here. And Shimwell in 1972 said that polyclimate theory has some advantages where it is simpler than the monoclimax theory, which involves suppositions, regulatory processes, and vegetation. The next theory is polyclimatic climax theory. It was developed primarily by Tuxen in 1933, Tuxen and Damont in 1937, and Illenberg in 1959. There were actually two major propositions of this theory. First one was that any microclimate region may contain more than one climatic climax due to different mature soil types that may occur in the region. And the different mature soils which may result from different parent materials, so no indication of ever merging into one soil type. Thus, the plant communities occupying these different mature soils, so no indication of ever merging into one climatic climax. So here it is said that um, there is actually more than one climatic climax in um, microclimatic region, and this is due to different types of soils present in that area, and these soils are the result of the parent materials which don't show any similarities. So, as there are no similarities in the soil types, so there will be difference in different plant communities also. So, that is said in this theory. And the criticism is that it is impossible for a plant community to be considered climax unless it occurs on well developed or mature soil. So, community stability must be seen as equal to stability in the soil development and geomorphological development. Next one is the climax pattern theory. It was developed by Whitaker, And Shimwell proposed some propositions based on the nature and structure of climaxes for this theory. And there are three major propositions. They are that the climax is a steady state of community productivity, structure, and population, with the dynamic balance of its populations determined in relation to its site, and the balance among populations shifts with changes in the environment, so that the climax vegetation is a pattern of populations corresponding to the pattern of environmental gradients, and they diversify um, according to the diversity of environments and kinds of populations in the pattern. And there is no absolute climax for any area, and the climax composition has meaning only relative to position along with different environmental gradients and to other factors. So he basically says that climax of a community depends on the productivity, structure, and population of that area, and the balance among the population changes according to the environmental conditions, and um, their diversity and pattern of populations also changes according to environment, and there is actually no but perfect type of climax for any area. So the climax composition is calculated or known in relation to the position along with the environmental factors or changes that play a role in them. So, climax pattern theory does not require geomorphological equilibrium. However, to accept this theory, one has to consider vegetation as a continuum. Continuum means continuous vegetation through gradient analysis, like continuous vegetation throughout the different climatic conditions, which is maybe impossible. The next theory is site climax theory. It was discussed by uh, Dick Terhues in 1949 and 1958. He discussed that a climax theory concerning range site classification. So, this theory was known as site climax theory, and he reported that the acceptance of the products of man-caused erosion along with introzonal and ozonal soils as stable soils or sites, and considered the relatively stable plant community in equilibrium with such soils as climax, and hence, the term climax used here refers to climatic, edaphic, and physiographic climaxes, and this is synonymous with original vegetation. And he, like Whitaker, views climax in a climax theory, and the climax, polyclimax, and polyclimatic climax theories is that it does not require any geomorphological equilibrium and soil maturity. So this resembles the climax pattern theory also. And the site climax and climax pattern theories are similar in basic concepts, but they differ in their approach for fulfilling these concepts. The climax pattern theory follows the continuum approach, that is, continuous vegetation throughout the um, area or throughout different changes in the environmental patterns. And while the site climax theory follows the discontinuous approach, um, like there may be presence of different types of crops in in different patches of land or different types of crops on the basis of different seasons. This refers to as site climax theory. This is all from me today. Thank you.